welcome to Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. I'm Richard Dugan, your host. Thank you so much for joining us here on the program. We do come your way each week with 3 programs, Sundays at 7 p.m., and Monday mornings at 1 a.m. Streaming live at those times at richarddugan.com. Podcasts are at SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, Blueberry, and many other locations, too numerous to mention. Also places that you folks have been reposting our interviews to. Thank you so much. We are also on YouTube. Tell Me Your Story, Richard Dugan. Either or will get you there. Just look for the guy with the hat, okay? And we hope that you will take a listen to the program, share them with people that you know who are interested, or that you would like to have interested in what we're talking about, what our guests have to offer, to help change the world for a better. These we bring you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true, looking for those new ways of living. We also encourage you, if you are able to do so, to support this program financially. We can use all the help that we can get. We do have a PayPal and Patreon account for your security as well as ours. And we also ask you to participate in the Decade of Perfect Vision, the 2020s. Spend some time going within, listening to that still small voice, finding that peace, calm, quiet place that you can just kind of relax and rejuvenate and refocus and recenter. We hope that you will take time to do that. Hope you'll also take time to spend time with us today as we talk with a very special guest, a gentleman who is a humanitarian filmmaker, and he's joining us here. He is a local here in Santa Barbara, I believe. And Emmanuel Itier, thank you so much for joining us here on the program. It's great to have you with us.
Well, great having you. Absolutely great being with you. And I'm so glad we can have this little talk this morning. We're going to try to wake up and shake up the world. And it's a call for action every morning, right?
Exactly right. You're absolutely right. It is a call to action. You know, as I mentioned just a moment ago about having people spend time going within, I think that's important. And there is a certain element of action in that. Okay, there is a certain element of that. By the same token, when one is getting prompted by that still small voice, they're being prompted to do something, even if it's just to change their mindset. And I find that is so fascinating to me, that people are beginning to do that. The process is underway for them. And you help them to do that through the films that you produce. And we want to talk about that. You have a website, Wonderland is where people can go. Wonderland Group, actually the website, if I can, I'll bring that up here, is actually, I have here wonderlandgroup.com.
Wonderland, E-N-T, group.com.
Wonderlandentgroup.com, and you folks can go there. We will be linked to your website as well, Emmanuel, because we want people to continue to research these things. Tell us about some of these films. You've got one called Guns, Bombs, and War, another entitled The Secret Physics of Consciousness, something we talk about a lot. You also have The Cure, healing the mind and healing the body. And that's just to mention a few there. Let's start with the general premise of how you became, as is referred to, a humanitarian filmmaker. What makes you a humanitarian filmmaker?
Well, it's basically in one word, when you realize that I am because we are. And we usually get to that revelation that we are also important to each other, complementary to each other, and therefore at the service of each other, a humanitarian for each other, after a certain number of years of facing the truth of life, experiencing life. In my case, I was, this young French guy who met a woman on a plane. She happened to be American, so here I am. And then that path of life get me to direct movies. The movies I directed at first were very lame, exploitative, commercial movies you see late at night on Sci-Fi Channel or Showtime, a mix of action, horror, thriller. I wasn't that satisfied with doing that. I thought this was kind of garbage entertainment, but it was paying the bill. But sometimes there was a little voice within that was saying, you can do more. You look at the craziness of this world. We have 2/3 of the world population living with less than $150 a month. This is intolerable. This is not normal. So what is causing that? And so I thought maybe with my art, which is filmmaking, I can explore that. I can try to document why we are in this crisis, whether it's emotional, spiritual, economical, or political. So I embark onto really a journey to discover who we are, why I am, and why we are. And so the collection of documentaries that I call the Oneness Collection came from this. And as you mentioned, we have now produced and I directed 5 quite, I think, important documentaries. One is called The Invocation. It's an exploration of the notion of oneness. Another one is called Femme, Women Healing the World, how we need to rebalance the masculine and feminine energy in the world, but within ourselves. Another one is called The Cure, as you mentioned, healing the mind, healing the body, and healing the planet, because until we have a healthy mind, a healthy body, and a healthy environment, it will still be chaos. There is a total disharmony, disbalance in the world. So it's about all integrating and rebalancing all these energies. And to do that, obviously, you need to approach politics and economics. Economics is economia. It's the management of the resources. Are we doing economics right now? No, we're doing gangsterism. We're stealing from each other. It's global slavery still. And then are we doing politics for the people? Absolutely not. We are doing gangsterism. It's a thug against this side and that side. It's a nonsense. It's division, perpetual division. So I think we need to revise what these words mean and understand them and realize that we are both Republican and Democrat. We are both atheist and religious. It's all complementary. I don't see each other in competition at any time. I just see beautiful souls, incredible geniuses that need to reach out to each other to be one, to act as one, because that's this oneness that makes things possible and brings forward life. So that's how you become a humanitarian filmmaker, by realizing the oneness of the world, and quantum physics obviously proves that we are just a big ensemble of intertwined molecules. So why deny our oneness? We are one. Let's be responsible now and be mature and grow up. So it's about growing up. And I think that's when you become somebody, when you grow up.
You've mentioned a couple of things here I wanted to touch upon. Number one, you made reference to the fact that many people on the planet are, how do I put this? Well, as you put it, making less than $1.50 a day or something along those lines, And the thing that comes to mind, and again, from the comparison, okay, the economic comparison that you've made, that is statistical, you didn't create this. I struggle with this concept that they are not making as much as you or I might be making per hour or per day or week or month or year. And yet at the same time, when I see some of these documentaries about other cultures, especially what we will label as more primitive, they seem to be pretty damn happy. They seem to be living their lives just like some of these tribes that they came across in the rainforests in Brazil, in South America, who have never had contact with the modern world, the Western world, as we like to call it. But they're doing just fine, living their lives. They'll do a little hunting to feed their families. They'll do a little growing of crops to feed their families. They might even do some trading between villages. But they don't have bank accounts. They don't have smartphones. They don't have satellite television or on demand. They don't have any of that. No refrigerators, no cars, and the list goes on of what they don't have. And they don't know that they don't know that they're lacking anything. They're just living, they're thriving. They are absolutely thriving. And we think we've got to go in there and give them or help them to get all of these modern conveniences. And that's kind of where I want to start this, because it seems to me that the modern materialistic society in which you and I live, it's where we live. I'm not saying that's our mindset per se, but where we live seems to want to tell us, convince us, cajole us, market to us that we've got to have all of these things. I mean, every time I turn around, it's like when you go on the internet and you search for something, you find it and you buy it, which is fine. Now, every place else you go, as you are going to YouTube or you're going to a website to gather information or maybe a research project or for your film, you get all these ads popping up trying to sell you the thing you just bought or that you just looked at. I was looking for a replacement hat, right? I didn't buy one. I decided I was going to wait and maybe find it locally. And now every ad that pops up is for the hat. And they don't quit. So let's talk about how important is this construct, I will call it at this point, of economics. How important is it really to the overall health and well-being, mentally, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, to human existence when we start taking a look at the aforementioned example of the various communities, tribes, villages that are thriving, having a great life, living to ripe old ages, I'm sure. They're doing fine. Can you talk to us about that? And has one of your films addressed this aspect of human existence?
So yes, well, first, I travel the world, so I can really see how we live here with abundance and sometimes with an abuse of abundance, as you mentioned. It's a little bit pushy, it's a little bit forced, and it's not in real balance. At the same time, if we knew how to balance the use of this tool, the use of the internet, the use of consuming without abusing, it's beautiful, because indeed you have an abundance of everything. Doesn't mean that you need to be a glutton and overdose on your abundance. So here we are addicts of our own abundance. Over there, in the Amazonia forest, in India, whatever, they are not happy. That's an illusion of happiness. They are not happy for the simple reason that they die very young. They have all type of disease. They have no food. They are miserable. As you said, it's just a frame of mind that gives you the illusion they're happy, because on one side, they believe in reincarnation. So, oh, my life is shit right now. No big deal. Tomorrow I'm going to be reincarnated into a king. Well, that doesn't solve anything, So on one side, you have an addiction of too much abundance, not too much abundance, an addiction to abundance. And on the other side, you don't have enough abundance. You have misery, you have poverty. These people are not happy. And especially they're not happy because they know we've got it all and they have nothing. So before the internet, maybe at least they could be, ignorance is bliss, as they say. Well, yeah, they were ignorant. They didn't know how well we had it here. Now they know it because of the internet. So when I go to India or Africa or Latin America in remote villages, they are dying to get what I have, a computer, a car, a nice home with no disease. Even so, as we see, disease find us eventually if we're not careful and if we don't work as one, which is, by the way, the ultimate metaphor is that between the have and have not, at the end of the day, we all die. So it's better to share. So that's the answer. The answer is about sharing. So it's not about an overabundance or not enough. It's about sharing whatever you have. So if we have computers, everybody should have computers. If we have internet, everybody should have internet. If we have a vaccine, everybody should have a vaccine, especially if it protects you from a disastrous COVID-19 or something else. And then we can always argue about, okay, is it dangerous or not? Well, yeah, sure, of course. But in life, you have to take risks. As I always say, every day I wake up to run the risk of dying. So every day to live, you have to run the risk of dying. You take your car, you go on the freeway, you might die. But what? You're going to stay home and do nothing? So again, it's about having common sense, being reasonable, being in harmony, in balance, and not thinking that it's better on the other side of the fence, as the saying. It's not. It's complicated everywhere, but it's beautiful everywhere. And if only we could share it a bit more, this abundance, and we could put it in balance here without being addicts of our own consumerism, and over there by giving them a little more so they don't die at age 40, so they don't live in total poverty with no house, no sewer, no water. This is horrible. You go to India. I went to India, I went to Egypt, I went to South Africa. I was crying every second. I had tons of kids coming to me and saying, please, food, please, food. I've got 3 boys. My boys have food every day. These kids have no food. So, no, sadly, they are not happy, my friend.
Okay, but
and we are not. But together, we can be happy if we share. And if we, again, really share this frame of mind you were talking about, that construct, because indeed, to a certain point, it is a construct, but the construct is what you want to do with your mind, and the reality is that physical reality that surrounds us. But we can make a physical reality that is acceptable for everybody and comfortable with everybody. We don't need to live naked in the forest to be happy, or we don't need to be living in a castle with tons of cars and beautiful girls.
Mm-hmm. So it really,
both.
Right. It really comes down to where your mind and heart are more than anything else, more than
the hurt
things that you have.
Yeah, remember, we are all one.
Right. So that raises the question then, and again, your point is well taken as far as your travels and your experiences. How would they even know that they want all of the things we have
because of the internet?
Unless they've been shown those things.
Yeah, they've been shown it. Of course, they've been shown it through the internet. Even in the most remote village, you have somebody who's got a cell phone who have access to YouTube, and that's it.
But aren't there some tribes, like in the Amazon rainforest?
Very few.
Right. Because
even this tribe have humanitarian doctors coming and visit them, and these doctors have fun, and so they show them what is there outside in the world. So little by little, the new generation leave the villages because they are like, hell no, we don't want to live in that nonsense poverty with no clothes and freezing and having snakes and disease. We want to come to your civilization. They don't know that civilization has become uncivilized. Yeah. That's the problem. So over there they need to evolve, and here we need to slow down. So it's it's about sharing. It's about sharing. It's about finding the medium comfortable way of living.
Right.
Without it's good to be healthy, but it's not good to be obese. Right. So exactly. That's the problem. We are obese in our mind, in our craving, in our addiction, in our wanting. We are obese in our bodies. We are obese in our way of life and in everything. So we don't need to be obese. We need to go on a diet. Doesn't mean we need to become anorexic. So,
right.
So it's a fit balance between anorexia and obesity. You see, there's a medium.
Well, now here's an interesting twist. And this is. It's in regards to the immigration issue that we face here in this country, people coming across the southern border, but it's like I'm a little perplexed from this standpoint. When we go to other countries and participate, if not instigate, conflict. When the conflict is over, and this doesn't happen all the time, but many times, we then will spend billions, if not trillions of dollars to help to rebuild. We've done that with Iraq. There's a reason why people are flooding across the border into this country, and it's probably the very thing that you have just been talking about. So my question to you is, and this is still sort of on that economics slant, and it's probably the same answer that you've already given. Why not, instead of generating a conflict, we'll go in and destroy things, then we'll spend billions of dollars to rebuild. Why not find out what it is these people want? Because I know they don't want to leave their country. This is where they were born and raised, but they can't survive. Why not spend the billions of dollars helping them and their country to build an infrastructure that supports them and is sustainable, et cetera, instead of the billions of dollars spent to, say, put up a wall? It's like, you don't have to come here. We'll show you how to make your place better. Does that go back to the same answer you gave earlier of sharing?
Yeah, well, and again, now you're talking about political sharing. So the big issue, the ultimate issue we have on planet Earth is that even so we are many tribes, many countries, we are sharing the same planet, but we are not sharing it, meaning that every country thinks about itself first. America first, France first, Germany first, Russia first, China first. It's like, wait a second, I thought we import-export to each other, we're all in debt with each other, aren't we? Yes, we are.
Yeah.
So the notion that a country is better or first to another is really just plain ignorance, naivety, stupidity, or even more, dishonesty. It's that illusion that I am the king of the world. You're not. The kings of the world don't exist anymore. It's the people of the world. It's we, the people, with the power. And so, indeed, the problem with immigration, it's not an American problem. It's not a French problem. It's not a German problem. It's not an Iraqi problem. It's a global problem. And that doesn't mean, again, that globalism, it's, when people are against globalism. Well, what is globalism? Globalism, the reality of globalism should be the reality of a UN, a United Nations, put into action. Because the big problem we have is we have this beautiful institution, in theory, the UN, but it's unpractical. A, because nobody respects them. They are a side society, a very close side society. And B, because you have 5 countries who have total control. America, Russia, China, UK, and France. And they dictate whatever the heck they want to do, take to the rest of the world. So I don't call that democracy. I call that gangsterism again. So the UN is a big gangster. So we don't need them. We needed them as a constraint of the mind, as a beautiful idea. And now that idea needs to be really implemented. So to solve immigration, you're not going to solve it even by sending money over there without being really looking at that money, because as we know, most of these countries are super corrupted in their form of government. Most of them are totalitarian government, even more gangsterist government than ourselves. But if we have a united world where we have a responsible head of state, then together we work. And for example, with immigration, these millions of poor people coming from the South, if one voice, not only the US, but the US with Europe, with Russia, China, tell these countries enough is enough, we are paying you already with money. If you need more, heck, it's just money. Who cares? Money has no value right now, okay? We have $27 trillion of debt in the US. So what does that mean? France has 8 and so on and so on. Money is just a tool. It's like having shell in the old days. So so anyway, if it's about money, it's easy. We can solve it. Money grow on tree. Money grow on tree. Remember that. It's everywhere. So the issue is not about money. The issue is how do you manage that money? And the only way you manage money is together. In a family, if you have only the husband or the wife managing the money, eventually it goes south at some point. The guys start gambling, or the woman's gonna overbuy dresses. You need to share. You need to be open. You need to think beyond yourself and think in terms of the family, what's necessary for the family. So it's okay to be selfish, but for 2 seconds and realize again, I am because we are. So to solve immigration, we will solve it if we work as one planet. And that applies, when the French people always complain about, we have too many Arabs, too many blacks and coming from Africa. Well, yeah, and you're gonna keep having them because again, nobody's really talking strongly in one voice to this government who abuse their own people and force them to leave their country. These people don't want to come here. They have no other choice. As you said, they are desperate. They are being killed. They have no food. So, of course, it's a naive illusion that, again, the grass is greener in the other country. Well, it's not. Look at our unemployment, look at our violence, look at our crisis or division. We're not better countries than other country. On one side, we have a bit more comfort, material comfort, but it's very fragile. It can disappear in an instant. And we saw it with the COVID. It took just a damn virus to make us fall from grace. So be reasonable and realize we all need each other. And we can solve, again, immigration, like world poverty and religious tension if we work as one voice, but we need to have this unity of what exists already, because we have the G8, the G20. So in theory, there is already a united world government, but every time they get together, they just get drunk and solve nothing. So obviously, I don't think the problem is with the system. I think the problem is with the people. We obviously didn't vote for the right person. We voted for idiot. And we saw it here for the last 4 years. Doesn't mean that the next 4 are going to be better. Hopefully, we'll see. If not, I'll be the first one to say, screw that guy. He's as worse as the previous one. Let's find somebody else. But we need to find responsible, honest as possible politician who are not going to screw our beautiful heaven. Life, earth is heaven. It's here. You don't go wait to be dead to find it. It's here. But we have to manage it together as one.
Yeah. As they say, be careful what you wish for. We're talking with Emmanuel Itier, and he is a humanitarian filmmaker. We're going to talk about some of his films as well. I want you to know you are listening to Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. I'm Richard Dugan. I wanted to talk to you more, Emmanuel, about one of your movies having to do with consciousness and what you have found out through the process of your film about where it is, what it is, maybe even the why, if you will. If those are any questions that you were asking, because I do remember seeing a documentary not long ago on death and dying, and they wanted to find out the same question as far as consciousness, but more from a more physical standpoint. So what they did was they had somebody who had agreed beforehand to allow them to weigh them before and after their passing. And now, of course, we're talking about this person who is actually on a scale, and they monitored the change in weight, and there was like a quarter to a half pound difference lighter following the passing of this individual. So I thought that was a rather interesting experiment that someone was willing to do. Talk to us a little bit about your discoveries in regards to consciousness in this film.
Well, first we have to wonder, what does that mean, consciousness? Consciousness is a science of learning yourself. Conscious comes from conscius in Latin, which is knowing, aware. So it's about that self-awareness. When do you really trigger that? That's very, very difficult to analyze, because is it a organic process? Is it a forced process? I think it's a little bit of above, of all of the above. I think that we become conscious of ourselves after a few years of having our mind being educated and liberated, and that has to come together, because too much education becomes preachiness, and can impose a system of thoughts that's going to enslave you, and not enough education is going to turn you into a wild thing. So again, as you see, you become conscious, and you have a consciousness of yourself and the world with patience. With it's like a sculpture, the sculpture of your mind, that you have to constantly sculpt, and being very attentive to that sculpture you're trying to bring together, to give life to. So that's what I found out, that it's not a very simple answer, even so the process is simple to understand, because again, it's about balance. It's about being very caring, very precise, very patient, very loving. I think that again, we educate sometimes with too much brutality, too much force, and we think our notion of democracy or religion, of politics, is the only one in the world. As you mentioned before, no, it's not. We have all type of tribes around the world, from the most remote in the Amazonia to the most not so remote next to us in Santa Barbara. So it's, again, I think if we keep the conversation rolling, rock and rolling together, maybe we will get somewhere. But right now we are little babies making little baby steps, and we are far away from being grown-ups and mature individual. What I see is plain brutality and abuse and ultimately stupidity, because it's killing a potential of having somebody out there that maybe have a permanent cure to a COVID, or a permanent solution to economical disparity, or even the notion of God. What is God? Please tell me. I've stopped believing in Santa Claus when I was 10, and now you're telling me that there is another Santa Claus and his name is God. Okay, why not? But can we explain what it is and how that works? Because it doesn't seem like it works well, especially in a pandemic time when everybody die, whether you believe or not.
Yeah, you and I are on the same wavelength here, because especially when it comes to loss of life, under most circumstances, especially as you use the word brutality, my first thought goes to the lost potential and the examples that you just gave. I just sit here and then, of course, the other aspect we talked earlier about, that I'll just throw this out there. When I hear about foreign policy, specifically of this country, and that we want to, quote unquote, export democracy, I sit there and I think, you really think that's a good idea? Look where we are. And, you talked about the different types of obesity that we are suffering from right now. And I just sit here going, leave them alone. Let them figure, if they want our help. That was the other part of it too, is 9 times out of 10, we go where we've never been asked to go, to provide or export whatever it is that we feel we need to be exporting. And they didn't ask for our help. And I say, if they want our help, let them ask, and then we will come and help. Until then, we're going to stay out of it. And again, that is not, I'm not taking a nationalistic perspective here. I'm taking the perspective that you can make the offer to them, but you don't force it upon them any more than, let's just say, and again, I say this hypothetically, Emmanuel, if you were a drug addict or you were an alcoholic, I'm not going to force you to go to rehab. You have to want to go to rehab, right? And until you're ready, it's not going to take. I mean, don't we hear constantly, especially from the entertainment industry, of individuals who have a drug problem and they go to rehab and they come out and then they relapse and they go to rehab and they come out and they go through that cycle until one day something clicks for them. Boom. And now they're able to live their lives. It seems to me that is that is the humanitarian way of helping people. It's great to give a man a fish, as they say, even better to teach him how to fish. But the next question is, does he even want to learn how to fish? And I say that metaphorically speaking. Talk to us a little bit about that aspect of our humanness as a human tribe globally, almost 8 billion people, and being there for one another, but not forcing ourselves upon one another.
Yeah, it's exactly that. Yeah, it's a very thin balance between becoming a teacher and turning into a preacher. And the preacher has an agenda that is really preaching to you and forcing onto you, and is trying to mold you. And I think that's damaging. That's why I never advise any parents to force religion on their kids before they are a certain awareness of themselves. Because honestly, if not, it's a borderline mind rape. You are putting ideas in their mind. For what reason and based on what honest truth? I mean, give me a break. So again, you cannot force humanity or your notion of humanity onto another human, but you can definitely share and try to argument your point of view and select argument that might be valid or not, and see how that person reacts. So again, it's about sharing that beautiful one mind that ultimately we are, because as you said, we are 8 billion people. We are definitely 8 unique specimens. Each of us, even so we have a very similar DNA, have so many different constructs of our mind that the intelligence at the end is so different. And there isn't a more intelligent or less intelligent, or more emotional or less emotional. They are different people, but that difference create a specific, unique power, because that's what I want people to realize, that they are powerful. They are people of power. The problem, they are told, no, you are an idiot. Don't think, don't act, stay in that little box I decided to put you in. That's it. You'll be always a janitor. You'll be always a president. You'll be always a slave. You'll be always a master. No, we are all of that at certain time. So, and it comes together. Life comes together when you put in common. Look, a man and a woman create a baby by putting their resources together. Well, that's a metaphor for life in the big picture. If really we bring forth all our energy, or creative energy, whether they are mental or physical, then we can solve everything. So it's not about forcing and abusing each other. It's about, again, sharing and putting all the cards on the table. What is your deck? What do you have in your deck? Because I know your deck of cards is different as mine. And maybe together we have the 2 aces that we need to strike beauty in this world.
Right.
So it's like, let's learn to play together. Life is a big game. That's it. That's all it is. It doesn't have to be miserable.
Let's work together to create a full deck, folks.
Let's have some fun. Let's be, eternal kids who wants to play. And look at that. There's an abundance of everything. There's plenty money, plenty water, plenty food, plenty resources. What there isn't is sharing. There isn't that. There are people, and 2/3 of the 8 billion who lives in crap, and there's us struggling not to fall in crap. And guess what? We are falling into crap. So sooner or later, we're going to wake up, and it's going to be Mad Max and The Walking Dead everywhere. So please wake up, people.
Yeah. You also raise something I wanted to talk to you about in that regard, to the sharing aspect, especially when we talked economics earlier. And that has to do with the big argument. It was part of the attempt by the, and again, these are my observations, folks. I'm not taking sides. It was the Republican campaign constantly, whether it was the local campaigns for senator or congressman or the national, constantly throwing up the accusation that if you vote for the other guy, you are going to throw us into socialism. And I kept hearing that, and I'm going, Well, wait a minute. It sounds like there are only three economic formats: free enterprise and capitalism, socialism, and communism. And I'm thinking, come on, are we that stupid that we can only think of three? Only think of three? And what you said earlier, just a few moments ago, I also agree with you on. There is more than enough. There is no deficiency of any resource, as we like to call them, on the planet. It's all about the distribution, or we'll change that word to the sharing. I don't know if you're familiar with a visionary architect. His name was Jacques Fresco, and he has a community, if you will. He was an architect who developed what's called the Venus Project. I interviewed him when he was 94 and then 99, shortly before his passing. And he would talk about his vision. And he said there were three pillars. I remember one of them with the economic pillar. He said that there would no longer be ownership of resources, that the resources would belong to all the people. You would still need distribution, but the distributors wouldn't own it either. And for example, and I use this analogy. You know the little flash drives, the USB flash drives we have? Well, you walk into a store and there's a barrel of them, all right? And you walk in and you pick up one. I only need one, I'm going to go home and I'll use it. So you're walking home and a guy comes up to you with a gun and says, I want the flash drive. Well, the difference between today and that scenario is I would just hand it over to him. I said, here, I'm going to give you this, but just down the street here, there's a store that has a barrel full of them if you really need one. So you're not really stealing from me. Okay. I might be the distributor in your case, although you don't really need the gun. If you want it, I'll give it to you. I'll go get another one. It's no big deal. Okay. I'm not, and so, and then of course he's designed these communities where you work in the community where you live. It's sort of like a circular community. You can have a car if you want, but you wouldn't need one. If you didn't need one, you don't have to have one. There would be public transportation, shuttles, this, that, or the other thing. You could walk, you could bicycle, you could, however other method that you wanted. You wouldn't need air travel anymore because there would be these high-speed rails and or tubes. And you could actually go from, and I remember hearing this, Los Angeles, let's say you wanted to have, you're there in, let's just say you're in France. All right, Emmanuel, you're in France. And we're chatting, hey, why don't you come out for lunch? No problem. I jump on this high-speed shuttle, this monorail, if you will. I'm there in an hour. From Los Angeles to France to Paris. We have lunch. I get back for my afternoon meeting. Yeah, I don't need airfare. I don't need to fly. We get the planes out of the sky. And so on and so on and so on. I mean, he was an incredible individual who shared all of these wonderful ideas. And I'm wondering about your vision of the future as a humanitarian filmmaker. What do you see on the horizon for us as a species?
Basically, it's going to depend on one thing, who are going to be our leaders of tomorrow, because I see two things on the horizon. I see what is going on right now, and it's leading us to Mad Max and The Walking Dead, a total desolated world in constant fight, war, social distortion, mini civil war. I see that if we keep going in that direction, meaning we elect dumbos at the head of our government, and these dumbos fight the other dumbos, and it's a land of the dumb, a land of the dead. So that's where we're going. Trust me, there's no escaping right now. Right now. At the same time, there is, if we are all becoming peace in action. That means we stop the bitching, we stop the whining, and we take our destiny in our hands. And how do you do that? Well, you have to run for office, whatever your office is. It's your church, it's your football club, it's whatever, your card game club. you have to take charge. You have to organize, you have to unite, and you have to lead. So everybody needs to be a micro leader, and some of us need to run for president. And by the way, that's exactly what I did. Last year, I created my political movement after studying with the people through my documentaries for over 10 years around the world. I created a political movement called the French Victory, and I'm running for president of France next year.
Oh,
So yeah, so that's, that's doable. Doesn't mean I'm gonna make it, but at least I'm trying, because I'm fed up of all these gangsters and baboons screwing up my country.
and one of the other things too, though, one of the other things you're going to do, though, whether you win or not, during the campaign, you are going to raise issues. You are going to start conversations, right?
Exactly. I'm raising awareness. I'm raising consciousness. I'm making people aware. No, there is another way. There is another solution. And these gangsters, obviously they don't have the solution, because it's a perpetuation of the same mind rape for the last 30 years. So obviously, stop being naive. All of them are bozos and zeros. So there must be some other way, and I'm proposing that, in a very, by the way, very organic way. When I look at the revenues of any government, roughly 50% of the revenue of any given government comes from sales taxes. So that's it. That's, so it's consumerism, but it can be healthy consumerism. You don't need 10 cars or 10 t-shirts, but you can buy a retirement plan. You can buy a vacation. You can buy a book. You can buy a play, a dinner with your wife. That's healthy consumerism. So that's basically what I'm preaching.
Right.
I'm not for it. That's what I'm trying to educate people with. And another way of looking at this abundance that we have and making it free and abundant for everybody. Because I agree with your friend, we don't need ownership on anything. By the way, what do we own? Nothing. We only own debt, basically.
Yeah.
That's really what you own.
Yeah.
That's it.
My wife and I were actually talking about this. And of course, I hear this argument, especially here in California, in regards to property ownership, and there's a wonderful line in an Irish song that goes, "You don't own the land owns you." And I've come to this conclusion. And again, I do understand where these individuals are coming from as far as perpetuating the philosophy of property ownership, especially under our democratic form of government and the Constitution and all of that. But the reality is, I don't care what piece of paper you have or anything, you don't own it. I don't care what the bank says, they don't own it, because in 100 or 1,000 years, you're not going to own it, and neither are they. Someone else is going to, quote unquote, own it. And we have lost, I believe, and again, I'm not sitting here saying, let's do away with that property ownership. No. What I am saying is that we need to change our mindset from that standpoint. I have owned, quote unquote, 2 homes in my life. One was with my first wife. Great house, loved it. Wish I had been able to hold on to it. And the second home was the one that my present wife and I lived in Phoenix. Now, it was less of a home from the standpoint of some economic benefit and more of a chip that at one point I was going to cash in. And we did. And then we moved here to Santa Barbara. We don't own a home here. We are renting a home that somebody else, quote unquote, owns. And I don't feel any different. Now, we are fortunate that this particular owner has allowed us to do some of the things that we have wanted to do, little things, nothing major. We're not tearing walls out and that kind of thing. But it is our home. When you talk about making a house a home, it is definitely that for us. But in terms of this whole aspect of socialism, that is the accusation. Can I throw out this analogy? We have, I don't know how many trillions of cells in our human body. Okay. And I ask this question of people: under what form of government do the cells of your body function? I mean, if there were such a thing. And you can't say democracy, because democracy seems to promote individualism, and individualism doesn't work in a multi-celled organism because each cell wants to do its own thing. And so guess what? The body no longer exists. It's not communism because you're not being forced to do stuff under some centralized form of government, and nor is it socialism. I came up with another ism. It's kind of long. It's still an ism. I'd love your opinion on this. Interdependentism. Your thoughts. Yeah. Your thoughts.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, that's a very, or communitarism. It's all about, first, people who are scared of the word socialism. Well, it comes from social. It's a science of what is social, and social is from socialis in Latin, which means of companionship, of allies, uniting, living with others. So, I mean, obviously, we are creatures of living together. That's why we are alive, is to live with each other. If not, we would be a Robin Crusoe on an island, and we're not. There is no island today with one guy or one woman living alone. So, indeed, it's all about this companionship, this sharing, this humanism that we want to share with others. And again, the problem is not the system, whether it's socialism, communism, capitalism, all this ism. Who cares at the end? It's easy to brand a system, but it's like when people say, "Oh, well, guns are bad." Well, it's not guns that are bad, because we can kill each other with our own hands, you and I, in a fight. So what's bad is us, is we the people. We are the problem, not the system, not the guns, not the bombs, not the war. And by the way, all of that is created by our sick mind anyway, to destroy something else. So it's us the problem. So it's us that needs to go through a re-education. And it's not a re-education in the sense of Mao going into an entertainment camp. It's more about liberating the mind. I always say the last revolution is going to be the revolution of the mind, when really we unveil the truth of our mind and its capacity, when we can fly, when we can create, when we can bind spoon. Yeah, why not? I mean, look at this volcano of energies we are, and we are using barely 10% of it. So we are idiots in a way, okay? Our genius is in jail, in our mind jail right now. But it could be liberated. And I think that liberation is going to come when we work together and we stop abusing and raping each other. So that's it. That's my philosophy of life. It's let's get to work. Shut up and let's get to work.
Emmanuel Itier is my guest here on the program, humanitarian filmmaker. Are these films currently available, and where are they available?
They are all over the internet world. They are very close to you. You can find all of my movies especially in the US and Canada, on Amazon Prime, on iTunes, all the basic criminals.
Now, you know what's interesting, when you were talking about expounding upon my comment, the first thought that came to me too was as you defined the word socialism, okay, the definition. And I think that's extremely important. I was working for a Christian radio station for a while, and I was telling people, do you understand Christianity is metaphysical? So no, that's New Age. No. Do you know what the definition of the word metaphysical is? No, it's beyond the physical. And Christianity is a faith based upon spirit, upon that which is beyond the physical. Wake up. So I loved your definition, but the first thing that came to mind was, does social media fall under that category? Another one of those evils, one of those bad guys, because it is anything but social, and especially the way that it has been weaponized over the last 5 and 6 years. Now, I don't know about you, and I know people say, no, Richard, you need to have this. I don't have a Facebook account. I've had one twice, and I got rid of both of them. I do have a Twitter account, All I use that for predominantly is to let people know that, oh, guess what? My interview with Emmanuel Itier is on SoundCloud, iTunes, YouTube, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's pretty much what I use it for, to let people know that it's out there. I do have an Instagram account, but I haven't figured out for the life of me how to incorporate that yet. So I haven't posted anything. I just, and I've even heard from friends of mine, they'll be out with their partners, their wives or husbands, eating at a restaurant when we were doing that. And somebody would walk up to me and say, up to them and say, hi, I'm friends with you on Facebook. And they go, who are you? Hi. Now I use another social media platform called LinkedIn to get guests for this program. There are some incredible people on LinkedIn. There are some unusual people on LinkedIn as well. But those are the resources that I use social media for, if you will.
Yeah.
But in
and
terms,
again, it goes back to the definition of the word social, which one of them is the notion of allies. And again, it's to form alliances.
Yeah.
You know, so social media should be used as a tool to form alliances with other people, to reach out.
But the question,
don't become an addict. Don't become an addict.
But the question,
people are addicted. They post 10 times. They go to the bathroom, they post it. They go to eat, they post it.
Yeah, I don't need to know that. I don't need to know that.
Exactly.
But you use the word alliances, and that word has such, I almost want to say, militaristic and or political connotations. You see what I'm saying?
But it doesn't have to be. Again,
no, it doesn't. I like the term community. I really do.
Yeah,
I like the term. Same thing. It is the same thing.
But alliance is really a bond of marriage. It's a union. So that's what it is. That's a real definition. So even so it was misused, you know, it doesn't have to be. It's like, by the way, the word religion. Religion has two origin, religare and religare. Religare is the notion of binding together, of uniting, and religare is of transcending and reread. So religion can be good.
Yeah.
If, again, not abuse of. The problem is people abuse religion. So it becomes totalitarianism at the end. And as you said, they don't even know what Christianity is, as if Christ wanted you to become a little soldier and a little robot believing in everything and nothing. It's absolutely not. He was a punk. He was a rebel. He fought all these crazy monsters of fascist Romans and rabbis. I mean, he was a revolutionary. So become a revolutionary. Don't let yourself being enslaved by any system, whatever it is, by anybody, whoever they are.
I found it fascinating how I would hear the commentary, so to speak, from the former administration followers about how everybody else they were a bunch of sheep. And then when I saw the January 6th event, I'm going, I'm sorry, who are the sheep? You know, you are following the dictates of somebody else. You're not thinking for yourself.
Exactly.
And, you know, because of the way that it went, how do you know, sheep, that you wouldn't have been one of those that had been killed, that had been maimed and wounded? And how smart is that? And how productive is that? And how is that making this world a better place? Now, I realize that the founding of our country, the United States, was founded on violence, a war, a revolutionary war. I get that. I understand that. And here we are today. But that kind of raises this question I'd love for you to talk about, especially in the context of consciousness as well as human behavior. I've learned that the energy that is used in the conceiving of an infant will determine to a greater or lesser degree the temperament, shall we say. In other words, if the resources of the husband and wife are brought together, as you alluded to earlier, are brought together in, let's say, an angry or maybe even a drunken stupor or something along those lines, instead of a conscious intent to bring into this world the continuation of life. I don't consider it new life. I consider it continuation. Anyway, that energy goes into that individual. Well, when other things are born, like companies or even countries, the energy that is created to bring that into existence permeates its existence. Doesn't mean it has to go down that road, but this country was founded under the energies of violence, of bloodshed, of war. And we even fought against ourselves in the Civil War. And then in the 20th century, we fought against everybody else throughout that century. So it raises the question of how we, Emmanuel, how do we begin that process if we want peace in our world? You know, as Gandhi said, be the peace, that you want, be the change you want to see. From your perspective, where do we begin with that? I mean, I know it begins with me, but how do I start?
Absolutely. Well, you are talking about Gandhi. I'm Gandhi with the boxing gloves of Muhammad Ali. I'm a boxer, but I've got a hurt. But I spank you with love. I'm gonna spank you, but I spank you with love. And
Okay.
That's who I am. So I'm Gandhi with the boxing glove of Ali. What does that mean? Really, is that that's the answer to your question. I think, it's about the old French quote, I think, therefore I am.
Mm-hmm.
But you, the American, completed that quote by saying, just do it. So it's I think, therefore I am, therefore I do. So you have to first analyze who you are. What are your thoughts? Do I have thoughts of destruction or thoughts of creation? And that's going to determine who you are, truly.
Mm-hmm.
And then with who you are, you have to put that in action, because if not, you become so frustrated that you're going to fall into depression or worse, commit suicide, addiction. When we say, oh, he's having a midlife crisis, he left his wife for a young bimbo, or he fell into depression and now he's a heroin addict, midlife crisis. Well, it's because you had thoughts of who you wanted to be. You eventually became that being in your 20s, but you gave up and you didn't never put these thoughts and this being into action. So that's where the key is about, again, being aware of what you think you are meant to be, become that, and then act on that. And that's the last motion, the last step. The acting is very tough, because again, everybody around you is going to tell you, hey, you're not good enough. Hey, you don't have that education. Hey, you don't have an MBA. Hey, you don't have money. Hey, you're white. Hey, you're black. Yeah, they always put you no in front of your path. Yeah. Well, just blow that. The word no doesn't exist. It's a figment of your imagination. It's always yes, but. Yes, but. So it's not yes. People who say, oh, live in the moment, live into the yes. That's naive. That's too much. No, be more reasonable. It's yes, but. Yes, I'm going to become president of France, but what does it take? And what are the steps? So I think I am president, I'm becoming president. And so it applies for anything. You want to build a house. I am an architect, I am the architect, I'm doing the drawing, I'm looking for the financing, I'm building my house. I want to be a radio show host. I'm thinking it, I be it, and here we are, we're doing it. Yeah. So it's simple in terms of conceiving a beautiful world where everybody is a self-creator, and then we are co-creator by joining forces. Because as you see it today on that show, if it was just Richard or Emmanuel talking to themselves, it would become very, very narcissistic and very boring very quickly, like maddening almost. Yeah. So again, there is no mad dreams unless you just isolate yourself and die with your own madness. But if you share your madness and you have a method to your madness and a plan to your madness, it becomes a beautiful reality. It becomes divine. And that's for me the notion of divine. It's that oneness, that co-creatorship, that co-partnership, where everything is possible if we just dare to say to each other, hey man, I've got this idea. Hey girl, I've got this idea. Do you want to marry me? Let's have kids. Oh, okay. Well, okay, let's do it. It's work. Again, it's work. Sure. That's the problem. People think it's going to be easy. No, nothing is easy. It's always work. It's a process, but it starts with you being honest with yourself, speaking your truth, reaching out, sharing your truth, and see if it can be validated and put into motion, into action. Mm-hmm. I think, therefore I am, therefore I do.
And it's interesting that what you brought to my mind was something that my folks shared with me. I have shared with the others that my parents had 6 kids, of which I am the third in line. Eldest male, but I'm third behind my 2 older sisters. And they're going, wow, your folks must have really sacrificed a lot in order to have all 6 of you. Well, I put that to my mother and father. And it goes to the root of what you just said. They told me, no, we didn't sacrifice anything because we wanted a big family. And when you talk about it being hard work, sure. But behind it all, the core was, this might be hard, but this is what we wanted, a big family, a big, loving, caring, compassionate, diverse family. And that's what they've got. And now they have not only grandkids, they have great grandkids, which makes me a great uncle. I'm pretty jazzed about that at 60. So I think that's what it comes down to is you don't have to sacrifice anything. You have to focus on what it is that you want. And whether or not you are willing, there's that but, whether you're willing to do the things that are necessary to make it happen. Think it, be it, do it, as you say. And as I think, therefore I am, therefore I do. And so here we are today talking with Emmanuel Itier. He's a humanitarian filmmaker. Actually, I believe the correct phrasing of that is an humanitarian filmmaker, as I learned in English. I always find that interesting. I'm really big on using the correct terminology, grammar, words, and so forth. I hear the word historical, and I'm going, couldn't you say that that's not an historical event? That's an historic event. I suppose historical is a word, but historic seems to me like it would apply just fine. That's like regardless and irregardless. No such word as irregardless. It's either regardless or it's not regardless. Either or. Anyway, enough of the English. I want to thank you so much for joining us here on the program as I get a little sidetracked. This has been fascinating. You have a number of films, again, available on Amazon Prime and all of the other outlets that are available, iTunes and so forth. And I'm going to start looking up some of these on Prime, which I happen to have, because, you and I do share I will call it a kindred philosophy. And I'm only 60. And my dad will be 90 this year, 2021, 90. And I asked him how he felt about the outcome of the election. And he was really, well, we'll see, If he's at 90 and he's frustrated about the whole situation, I'm 60, I'm frustrated about the whole situation. As I observe it, okay, the common man on this planet hasn't gotten better for the common man. It's only gotten worse. And so the systems, the isms that we live under today that are in existence, they basically aren't working. So we need to come up with some new ones. I want to thank you again for joining us here on the program. We are going to allow folks to find your films on YouTube, which would be fantastic, and Vimeo, as well as the other outlets that you have shared with us. We the People, I think, is a wonderful film that folks might want to take a look at. I mentioned Guns, Bombs, and War.
That's coming in April. The new one is coming out in April from Vision Films. That's Gun, Bombs, and War. So
Okay.
right now you can find on iTunes, Amazon, and Vimeo The Invocation, Femme, Shamanic Tracker, which was a movie I did on shamans in Peru, The Cure, We the People. So you've got 2, 4, 5 movies of mine out there on pretty much every digital platform.
You know, we might even, well, there is no.
I send them to you as private screener in the chat. So if you open your chat,
I see that. Thank you very much. I'll copy and paste that so I can do that. I want to have you back. We're going to have you back again, because I would like to dive into more about consciousness, but I would also like to dive into the shamanic trekker and shamanism and that whole aspect. I have interviewed people who say that they are shamans, they have trained and so forth, and I've always been fascinated. I've been fascinated by rabbis and the in-depth study that they must go through and the insights that they share with me, a born and raised Catholic Christian, as it were. Today, I consider myself a metaphysician, but I also take this position, Emmanuel, and I think it's the most honest position for anybody who has whatever the philosophy is, to take the agnostic position. I don't know. That's why I loved.
A lot of people are scared of agnotism, and we have to remind them that agnotism means that you don't know.
I don't.
Agnotism, and by the way, in all the scripture, God is all and all is God. So God is not defined anytime. It can be a it, it can be a he, it can be a she, it can be nothing. We have no idea. What we know is that all of these molecules, they are dancing together and they are creating life. That's all we know. We don't even totally understand how it works. But now let's go look for God, guys.
Yeah. Well, I encourage folks to go to your website, which is wonderlandentgroup.com. And by the way, that ENT, I believe, stands for entertainment. So Wonderland Entertainment Group, but it's wonderlandentgroup.com. We will be linked to your website as well, Emmanuel, so that people can find out more about you and the work that you're doing. And we will schedule another interview with you. I'll send you an email with some additional dates and times and see what we can put together, because obviously, there is still so much more that we can chat about. Again, I would love to continue and then go into the particular film on shamanism, the shamanic trekker, but also would love to talk about, and I hope I pronounce this correctly, femme, because a lot of people are under the misconception that the feminine energy that's out there that is now and has been for the last few years really been pushing its way into society, into our civilizations. People have the misconception that they want to take over, and that is not what they want to do. That is not what this energy wants to do. It wants to do what you said earlier: blend, mix, balance. Because when we are to partner, because when we do that and create, yeah.
By the way, in the belly of your mother, you're both feminine and masculine for 3 months.
I'd heard it said that we were actually feminine. I heard that initially.
Initially, and then we are feminine and masculine, and then there is eventually a separation. So we embody anyway these energies. It's the same. It's one. Again, that's how you create life. So why the conflict? Well, there is a conflict because indeed, some people are prostituting the movement. Like some feminists are abusing feminism. Some Me Too are abusing Me Too. So it's when you start abusing an idea and a concept that you appear totalitarist, and that it scares people for the right reason. For the right reason.
Exactly.
I don't want to be governed only by women, because they wouldn't be representative of the macho idiot I am. I want macho idiots and beautiful women. And together we can figure it out. Maybe.
Exactly. Well, before I let you go, I want to ask you 3 final questions. I ask all of my guests. You may have addressed them during the interview, but I like to ask these directly. Before I do, I want to remind you, the listener, that you can hear these programs. You're also the viewer if you're watching this on YouTube, that you can go to SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, or richarddugan.com to listen to the podcast, as well as listen live on Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m. And again, as I said, YouTube, we're there. So please avail yourselves of the YouTube channel. Tell Me Your Story and Richard Dugan. Just look for the man with the hat. And if you can support us, we'd be grateful for that. A PayPal account for your security as well as ours. We also encourage you to participate in the Decade of Perfect Vision, the 2020s. We hope that you will spend that time going within, getting still, quiet, and calm, and then listening to that still small voice that will help you to stay focused on what your dreams are, because we are here to give you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. And now to my guest, question 1 of 3. Who is Emmanuel Itier?
The next president of France. That's an easy one.
And I hope you don't forget the little people along the way. Number 2.
People. I'll always be a little people. My quote is, I the people, we president.
I like it.
So that's my feeling.
All right. What is it that you hope to or want to achieve through the work that you're doing now?
Liberate the mind of people. I'm really tired of seeing us still being enslaved by our mind. I always say we are right now in the Bastille, the French Bastille, and I need to bring down that mind Bastille. So that's really what I want to do.
And finally, what is your life's purpose?
To go back to bed.
And off he goes.
Yeah, I'm in my PJs. I'm always ready to go have a good nap.
I hear you.
My life purpose, again, is to be of service to each other. I really believe in when I say I am because we are, I'm truly that. I know that I'm only the result of the combination of everybody else's mind and energies. I am because Richard is. I am because my wife is. I am because my kids are. Again, I'm a simple idiot and I'm a beautiful genius at the same time, in the same body. It's not conflicting. Actually, it's liberating, because if you think about it, man, if you were all the time a genius, that would be fucking draining. Excuse me, French. It would be crazy. That by the way, that would be a beautiful documentary. What's the borderline between being a genius and a madman? I think for me, a madman is somebody who's two geniuses, two genius. It's when you are that intelligent, your mind snap onto itself. Yeah. So just accept to be genius 1 second a day and an idiot the rest of the time. That means you can go back to bed with me, and relax.
That's right.
And let other people manage life. Again, that's why we are beyond people. Why do you want to be the savior of the world 24/7? Makes no sense.
Exactly.
Everybody else is your slave. That makes no sense.
Emmanuel Itier, thank you so much for joining us here on the program. And I look forward to having you back again very soon, and we will continue our conversation. And I thank you for listening and viewing Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World, giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. Until our next broadcast, podcast, videocast, love to love.
Peace and love. Become who you are already. I am. We are.